Welcome to What's Trending with Tire Review. I'm Maddie Weiner, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Bill Hancock, Senior Vice President, Supply Chain Operations at American Tire Distributors, and Mark Chandler, Senior Vice President, Global Supply Chain at ATD. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hey, Maddie.
Very good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you both for being on today. So I first wanted to get your take on how ATD was affected by the economic shutdowns caused by the coronavirus pandemic. I know obviously everyone in every industry was affected. So what are some supply chain hurdles that ATD had to sort of figure out and overcome during this time?
Well, I'll go first and you can jump in, Bill, but I think, being alive and during this time is and being in supply chain is amazing and wonderful. I mean, this is the challenges we've seen over the last couple of months is kind of a supply chain person's dream to be involved in. Not saying it's easy, but it's the complexities of dealing with what we've had to deal with has been amazing, and it's been fun, to have to live through this and figure out our way around it. I'd say the first hurdle was just this sales drop we saw right around mid-March. Our volumes dropped, and they were down for a couple of weeks, and so then all of a sudden we saw this uptick, right, and we started seeing growth, and 4 weeks later, we're back to where we were last year. And now we've been above where we were last year. So, dealing with our demand planning process, our forecasting process, our collaboration meetings with our vendors, our executive S&OP process that we stood up a year or so ago, that process typically was a monthly process. And we had to really quickly revamp that and move to a weekly process where we were reviewing and forecast weekly, demand plans weekly. We were meeting with our senior leadership weekly from a executive S&OP process. What do we need to cancel? Oh my gosh, volume has dropped off and we've have all this product coming in and we're running out of space, to oh my gosh, we're recovering a lot faster than we thought. How do we get order more product, get the we don't want to be short, and managing that has been incredibly difficult. And I just had a call last week with one of our major suppliers, and one of the comments he made kind of surprised me. But he goes, "You guys really saved us this year," and I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, during the peak of the pandemic, when we weren't seeing orders and our factories were closed and we were shut down and we were wondering how long this was going to take, you guys were the first ones to come to us. And, with data analytics, we were the first ones to come back to them and say, guys, we're seeing a very fast recovery on this. We need you to open your factories back up. We're placing orders. We need the product. And they were able to take that, communicate that with their manufacturing facilities. They were able to convince them to open back up, start producing, and he just made the real comment that had they not had those conversations, had we not been collaborating weekly, hearing that they would be in a world of hurt right now. And so it's been a fun journey over the last 6 months or so. Bill?
Yeah, I would echo Mark's comments about just enjoying the time. As crazy as that sounds, it's been an exciting time to be in supply chain, lead through the challenges, and give you a different opportunity and way to engage with your team. So as Mark talked about kind of the business impacts and how we work through those, we understand COVID a little bit better now, but back in February, March, we didn't know what it looked like. We didn't know how dangerous it was. We were taking every precaution we could. And so we had to figure out, how do we take care of our team? We're proud that we're an essential service in all of our communities, whether it's law enforcement, first responders, healthcare workers. We knew we had to keep the supply chain moving, but with all those unknowns, how do we keep our team safe? How do we keep our customers safe? So we had to do a lot of homework. We connected in deep with the CDC, understood those guidelines, social distancing at work, the right PPE, trying to find the PPE. That was a challenge. But we've successfully navigated that. We're proud that our frontline workers have been able to show up every day, keep tires moving, keep our customers serviced. And that didn't come without a lot of effort. And we made a very aggressive decision early on that we were going to do whatever it took to maintain operations at all of our DCs. We were going to keep our sellers engaged remotely, but we were going to keep those sellers contacting our customers, providing resources to what the government was going to provide in terms of subsidies or support, financial incentives. And that's been critical. We know we played a vital role in managing the flow of product through the supply chain down to our retailers and ultimately for our consumers.
No, and that's great to hear. And from what you both are saying, it seems like the industry and from ATD's point of view, at least, kind of experienced more of a V-shaped curve instead of a U-shaped curve. Is that correct from your point of view?
Yeah.
It's a V-shaped curve for now, but we don't know. We don't know what the fourth quarter is going to bring with COVID or anything else that could play out. So we're continuing to maintain a very flexible mindset, cautiously optimistic about the future, and making sure that we're prepared for anything that could play out.
And yeah, there's so much left to predict that, so much up in the air, I guess, that it's kind of hard to predict. So going back to, I guess, mid-March was when, economic shutdown kind of happened, businesses started to close and, there was this mandate for a quarantine, essentially. What tools helped you all navigate that time and navigate the supply needed and the demand out there among your customers to meet their needs and, kind of continue the industry supply chain, essentially?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about, what does that frontline delivery look like? And that was probably the most dangerous component that we had to solve for. What do our customers need from us, and how do we do that safely while protecting our team and protecting the customer? Fortunately, we've rolled out a delivery app we call Traction, and it's really a full service delivery technology that we arm our drivers with. They are able to give advanced notification to our customers on when we're going to arrive. We can directly notify the customer if by chance we're going to be late. And then once we do get to that customer, we were able to leverage that technology to provide a zero-touch experience. And so traditionally, where you've got to sign paperwork or sign an iPad and physically transact, we were able to quickly set up a process where we could drop the tires where the customer wanted it. We could provide the proof of delivery that's essential for the financial transaction. We can make real-time order adjustments, whether they need to add a tire, take a tire away. Maybe they've got to process a warranty or do a return. We've been able to, really capture all of those needs with the technology we provide our drivers. Now, we rolled that out last fall, and that technology has really proven itself pivotal to make sure we could continue to service our customers with zero touch.
On the upstream side of the supply chain, as we call it, one of the we've got quite a few tools that help us with demand planning, and whether it's called forecasting or demand planning, but it's that insight and the data analytics behind it to look into what brands we're seeing the recovery the fastest, the quickest, and it really, those tools that we've developed and the team that we've put in place, really helped us, kind of see those trends early on and react to them real quick. Not only do we have great tools and great people, but I think one of the, big reasons for our success here the last several months has been that we've had the inventory when others didn't. And the tools that we had, the demand planning tools specifically, were things that allowed us to react quickly and with confidence.
Part of that product availability comes good collaboration with your upstream manufacturers, making sure they know what our demand signals are. But it's also how we're set up as a network. So several years ago, we made the decision to establish a hub and spoke network at all of our 140 DC locations. So our customers have access to their local inventory, and you can get that same day. And then also all of the DCs that are connected via hub and spoke, we're giving them access to next day if by chance they don't have it in their local DC. As we got into COVID, there were very real supply disruptions. As good as we were, reaching out to our manufacturing partners, there's still some gaps, and we still see those gaps play out today. And so we expanded that service offering, and we launched what we call Total Access. And we make it even easier for all of our customers to access any SKU across our network.
Can you kind of go into some of that data that you were tracking? What comes to mind, tire sellout data from your dealers, or inventory data from your DCs?
Clearly inventory data, sales data, and breaking it out by channel and seeing the impacts, by channel. We've seen, a lot of growth on the e-commerce side, through this, which makes sense, in this COVID-19 world. But we've looked at it by channel, we've looked at it by brand, we've looked at it by tiers, and we've also done a lot with information from our manufacturing partners. So understanding their fill rates to us, right? Understanding what lines they're constrained on, and like Bill said, even though we ordered early and we still, there are pockets of holes, and understanding those holes, and then understanding, if I can't get you this, I can get you, this other product, right? And maybe it's similar, right? And so being able to manage your inventory that way and say, well, I'm light here, but I'm going to be heavy here, so at least I have product to get you in case you need it.
Got it. Okay. And you were talking about tiers and different segments. Can you go into any trends that you all saw during the pandemic? I know some other data that I've seen, at least in Q1 and Q2, tier 1 was a little bit down, and tier 3 and 4 kind of expanded in market share. Can you share maybe some of those trends that you were seeing?
Yeah, I think there's a couple specific trends we could speak to, and that is the shift down in tiers. We've seen those tier 3, tier 4 brands really start moving faster, and that has come along with both COVID and the reaction to COVID, but also kind of a dynamic that was playing out before that. And so as consumers get more information, more insight, they're looking for more value. We've seen those brands grow. The other thing that has really accelerated during this time frame is our ship to home platform, and that's how we support e-commerce. We've seen that increase dramatically, and we've really put pressure on both our internal processes and systems to make sure that we could continue to fulfill that demand, and we've continued to do that. But we've also seen a tremendous amount of pressure play out with our parcel carriers. That's not unique to ATD. That's happening across the broader industry. And you've got parcel constraints, LTL constraints, truckload constraints. So we're making some additional investments into building out our last mile delivery platform. It's very important that whether you're a retailer or a consumer, you've got options. And if there's a parcel carrier constraint, all right, what else can we do to get those tires to you? Maybe you need those tires faster, where next day or 2 days out it's not going to work. We can leverage our fleet, and we can leverage on-demand couriers to fulfill that need. And we're excited about the improvement and the progress we're seeing in that space.
One of the other trends that's happening, and Bill, you touched on it, but there's a tremendous tightness in the market when it comes to moving product right now. So whether you're talking about trying to book ocean containers from Asia, if you're talking about just trying to book full truckload moves, of moving tires from Dallas up into Kansas City, it is extremely tight, and we're seeing spot market price increases go up 50, 60, 70%, in some cases 100%, depending upon the lane, and just loads getting canceled, and so managing through that and making sure that we have good relationships, not just with our tire manufacturers, but good relationships with our ocean carriers, good relationships with our freight providers, and that we're collaborating with them well. It's an all hands on deck. And the other thing that we haven't even talked about is, all of this is happening in the middle of a brand new AD/CVD process where they're looking at, Vietnam, Thailand, Taiwan, and they're looking at imposing levies on Tier 4 product, and what's that going to do to the supply of product over the next few months?
Yeah, for sure. And I know we've been following that, and I'm sure it's Bill, you spoke about this in your article for our State of the Industry, which listeners can find in the August issue of Tire Review. But you talked about the idea of agility through all of this, and not only navigating that, but the pandemic at the same time. There just seems to be a lot going on in the tire industry right now. So my next question was, you mentioned how in your article, you mentioned how the coronavirus has given the industry a unique opportunity to accelerate innovation like never before. So how do you feel ATD is doing this on the distribution side? I know you mentioned some things, but can you sort of elaborate on some other things that you all have been doing on the distribution side and how it'll affect your customers?
Yeah, I'd really re-emphasize a couple points that we made earlier. When you think about our response to COVID, this flexible, adaptable platform that we need to have, it really stems from our advanced analytics and how we go to market, how we connect manufacturers all the way down with consumers. That is going to be the name of the game today moving forward. Manufacturers have to have those insights. Blindly producing product and pushing it downstream, hoping it sells, it is wasteful. It's hard to respond to quick moves in the marketplace. And so building out our advanced analytics platform and making sure that manufacturers have line of sight to what your wholesalers need, what your retailers need, what the consumers need, and creating an open, transparent ecosystem, that's what we're there to support. We're excited about some of the early advances we've made, but there's a lot of work to do, both at ATD and across the broader industry. And then I think the second component of where we're making big investments is in that last mile delivery platform. Making sure that whether you're a consumer or a retailer or a manufacturer, how you get your tires to market, what inventory is available for you, how it shows up, who's the installer network. Those are all big challenges that we're there to help solve. As you see more and more people shifting to e-commerce, that's great, but these tires are showing up on doorsteps, and ultimately someone still needs to take those tires to get them installed. So we have made a lot of investments in building out what we call our installer network. And we can make sure that if you're a consumer, you want to purchase those tires online, we connect you directly with the installer of your choice. We provide visibility to that installer, what that price point is going to be. We need to continue to build out that installer network because as more and more people shift to e-commerce, that puts pressure on it. And people want options. They want to see not just how good of a job they do or at what price point it is, but how fast can you get them installed? I want to make a same day purchase decision and get my tires installed. That's difficult in the tire e-commerce space today. And we think we can make that easier by making those connections.
Two more questions for you both. I wanted to know, based on ATD data, how is the tire industry navigating this pandemic from your point of view?
I think as an industry, we should be proud of how we've reacted. We are an essential service. It's an essential product to keep America moving. And as a whole, we've responded well. Most of our retail partners, they've stayed open for business, even in the midst of a lot of chaos. And so they should be proud of the actions they've taken. We should all be proud of our frontline workers. I can't say that enough. These folks are out there braving a lot of unknown elements. And there's a big difference between today and March. In March, we were bringing people into work with, all of the PPE that we knew, all of the process enhancements that, we thought we could do, but no one really knew how dangerous it was. But they showed up. They continued to deliver for our customers. And that played out at our manufacturers, at wholesalers, at retailers, and everywhere in between. So I think it's shown some weaknesses in the global supply chain that we need to shore up. It's opened up new opportunities for some retailers to win in a different way, some wholesalers to win in a different way. So I think we can all be excited about what the future brings. But ultimately, I'm proud of it.
Yeah, I would echo, Bill, your comments, and particularly, early on, the tire industry, for the most part, everybody in the tire industry was deemed an essential worker. And so, whether you're a first responder and you need, we had tons of stories of where, first responders were on their way into work and had flats, and we were helping them get tires on their car so they could get to the hospital or the fire department or wherever. And those were inspiring stories. But early on in the pandemic, it was a little bit of an unknown, and working through that was a challenge. And in many ways, the folks, the guys and gals that came into work, during that unknown process. I mean, you don't want to throw the word hero around lightly, but I mean, they were certainly, going above and beyond the call to make sure that our product was flowing and the industry, was moving. So kudos to them, and we take our hats off to them all the time.